Now, in our regular career segment, we look at a career in technical writing and what it entails. Joining us to give us more about this career is Dianne Volek from Intercom South Africa. You at home can be part of our discussion by leaving your comments on Facebook and Twitter. I've always wanted to know what a technical writer is. When it got explained in simple terms, I was like, no, I don't believe someone actually does that as a job. In your own way, Dianne, what does a technical writer do?
Well, a surprising number of people actually write for a living. You wouldn't think so. And you've got the copywriter who writes advertising. You have the PR person or the news journalist who writes news stories. And of course, you've then got the peak of the profession is the novelist who writes a book and becomes famous in 15 minutes. A technical writer does combine those because a lot of what you write it's about product, so it's like that. It's about getting a message across, so it's like news, but it's also often as long as a book.
So it's that manual that I get with everything that I buy, right, that I never get to read. Like, I felt so bad. I was like, so somebody writes this, and they actually not some engineer person who just has, somebody sits and writes so that it's readable and it's accessible.
That's the important part of being a technical writer. So you would be somebody who has a very specialist and in-depth knowledge of a special subject, and so you would be able to create technical documentation, and documentation is quite a broad thing these days, in a way that an ordinary person can look at it and understand a very complex product. You know, these days we have such complicated products, and if you look at your cell phone, I'll bet you half the people don't realize all the things that their cell phone can do.
Yeah.
And
because we don't read that manual. We don't read it.
As a career, it's a really good career for a young person because, of course, every product comes with a technical manual, whether it's your microwave oven or your cell phone is a very typical one. All those books need to be written, and they need to be written by someone who has a fair knowledge of what they're writing about, and you can take a complex thing and make it sound fairly straightforward without losing
the essence
of
it,
the depth of what it's about.
All right, so let's talk about obviously the opportunities. So, you know, from your experience, you transitioned from a copywriter to a technical writer. I'm sure that's a journey that a lot of people can take. But let's talk about what opportunities exist out there for someone who wants to get into it.
Well, obviously, you've got the normal a journalist who writes for reviews for a car magazine or high-end sound systems. They would be a specialist in their field. You can't just give it to a person and expect them to understand about hi-fi systems. You might also, at the other end of the scale, you might have somebody who produces codes of practice and safety practices for a mine. So it depends on your area of expertise as to exactly what type of work you can do. However, the most interesting thing, I'm sure you know about, there's a lot of talk about those kids who got in school who got iPads. Now, I mean, it's a wonderful idea, but you can't go to the iStore and download grade 7 South African history. That's going to need a whole lot of technical writers to put together information, but in a way that really makes kids excited about education. So it won't just be a list of words about reading. It won't be like a history textbook. You could include an interactive tour walking through the old fort. And you collect prizes from the different rooms.
So you can create, you can use creative ways of like,
so
let's talk about
and in animation, and you can almost make it like a game where they get points. So instead of writing a test, you get points for each room that you explore that tells you about the history.
But at the same time, you're learning.
But actually, you're learning.
So let's talk about the difference between technical communication and technical writing. Is it the same thing? Is there a difference?
It would come to the same thing. Obviously, writing has a specific element of words. But these days, a lot of technical, probably why you would get the word technical communication, it's not just about the words anymore. We're in a multimedia society. It would take you 6 paragraphs to write about how to do something. You can put in a video for 1 minute. So it's more of a multimedia experience. And one of the things as a technical writer, for example, when they did the iPad, I mean, you sit there and you say, how do I write, do this? How do you do that? You know, open your fingers and pinch it.
Yeah. That part that you
Whereas if you have a little animation of a little hand,
Yeah,
you can do it in 4 seconds, and the person doesn't have to read the manual. They just immediately understand what it is that you're trying to get across. And in fact, really, a really good product should make things fairly intuitive.
Okay, so let's talk about what do I need to study in order, to become a technical writer. And obviously, if there is what does it involve? Where do I start my journey to get to this level?
Technical writing itself doesn't have a specific course because it involves 2 almost separate capabilities. The one is the ability to write, so a lot of technical writers come out of journalism or copywriting. But the fact is, if you are someone who is at school, who does brilliantly writing English essays, and you love to write, you may well have the qualities to be a technical writer. Writing is a practical thing, so doing a BA degree in English is not going to help you. It's about the practical aspects of writing, and it's about loving writing and wanting to communicate.
The foundation is that loving writing, so you can go into any course that gives you an ability to write, like journalism, copywriting, the BA
even
English
a
that you
creative
spoke,
writing
a creative
course.
writing
But
course.
it's something you have to practice, and
Okay.
it's a practical task. But the other side of that is, of course, your specialization.
Then you can pick a field that you want to go into. If you
And
want to
you
go into
pick-
cars, you can be a technical writer for cars. If you
Yes.
want to go into technology, you can do that, and henceforth and on and all of that. Okay.
Yes, and
all right.
it could be, if you are writing, for example, for computer games,
Yeah.
a 17-year-old already probably knows everything he needs to know.
know about it.
Because
Oh,
he's
so they
been
just need-
a
okay.
customer. He
Okay.
understands what it is.
All right. Firstly, how popular is this? And then if you're talking to 17-year-old who's thinking, I could do this game thing. I mean, how big are the opportunities, and does it pay well?
It doesn't pay. Writing has various sort of scales. Journalism, because it's a bit of a glamour industry, doesn't pay quite so well. Copywriting in advertising is very particularly well paid, but it's very intense.
Okay.
Technical writing sort of falls partway between the two, but if, for example, I have a degree in computer science and I write about IT, so that is obviously a skill that is a little more rare than somebody who writes about other things.
Is it in high demand in South Africa? I'm thinking, we're a country with a diverse country in terms of like languages. I'm just thinking here, I could be a technical writer in Zulu and create an opportunity for myself.
English is one of the sort of common ones, but actually there, especially as this kind of technical writing moves into education fields, definitely there's a greater call for other languages, to be able to express quite complicated topics like mathematics or science in more than one language, because it's just that much easier to take a digital topic that has video and put slightly different words to it. But it's more than just the words. I mean, obviously there's the script writing,
So let's talk about the character traits. What kind of person, do I need to be? What kind of person is Dianne?
Actually, you have to be a bit strange.
Yeah?
Because you've got that whole creative side, and you've got to think big picture, and you've got to be innovative, and you've got to look at a topic and say, how do I best do this? On the other side, you've got to be very analytical, very structured, because you're often writing very long things. So you can't jump all over the place. You've got to be a very tidy thinker. You've got to think through, they would do this first, then they would do that, then they would do the other thing.
Okay.
So you have to be a bit...
All right. It sounds like you're having fun doing this, Dianne Volek. Thanks for chatting to us. For someone who was a bit nervous, she did well because she says her mother was watching the show. Well, we've been speaking to Dianne Volek, telling us more about her career in technical writing. And for more information, you can go to unisa.ac.za.